You're a Jags fan. More importantly, you're an NFL fan, and it's quite simple. You're looking for the best NFL and Jaguars content, and that is right here on the Poojie Podcast. Thank you for being here. Let's go. What is he doing? Nah, bro, I think he's legit. You just can't do that in that situation. Nah, you couldn't be more wrong. Yeah, I could agree with that. This is the Poojie Podcast. What is going on, Pooch Crew? Thank you for being here for episode 152, and congratulations to you for finding the best podcast relating to all things football and sports and Jaguars, most importantly, of course, after a great season for the Jags. But unfortunately, the Jaguars are not playing this week. We all wish they could be if you're a Jags fan. But there is a massive game coming up in a few short days between the Eagles and the Chiefs. That's right. The Super Bowl is coming up on Sunday. I didn't have to tell you that. Everyone already knows that. But let's welcome Kyle in to talk a little bit of Super Bowl. How are you, man?
I am good. Looking forward to the Super Bowl on Sunday. Of course, that does mean the end of football season, which is always a little sad, but quick turnaround time with the draft around the corner after that. But yeah, all in all, looking forward to the game on Sunday.
Yeah, it is a little bittersweet with the end of the season coming along. We got one extra week this year, at least. I guess we did last year as well, but we had to put up with that stupid NFL Pro Bowl last week. The week before, we had two conference championship games, but it is kind of sad realizing it's all coming to an end for about 8 months or I guess more like 6 months of actual time until August when training camp and preseason starts. But Kyle, the conference championship games, 2 games, one good, one not so good. Thoughts on those games? I know you were at one. If we want to start there, the early one, the NFC Championship between the Eagles and the Niners. Thoughts on that game, Kyle?
Yeah, absolutely love Philadelphia. I don't know if there's any Philly fans listening to this, but awesome town. Really enjoyed the tailgating scene. Went up there with a friend of mine who's a big Eagles fan. We had great seats. Awesome outcome of the game. Obviously, we would have maybe liked to seen a closer, better game, but I was happy with the outcome. So yeah, that was great. Fun stadium, fun fans. The fans get a bad rap. I could see how they could get that, but from what I saw, everybody was pretty good.
Well, that's what I was actually curious about. I wanted your analysis on the experience and the, I guess, fan interaction. I know you were up there as an Eagles fan, so maybe not quite taking the brunt of it as a Niners fan would. But does the reputation of the Eagles fans hold up after seeing it in person and being in the madness of an NFC Championship game?
Yeah, I mean, the tailgate was awesome. Everybody had a DJ set up. They had these vans and wagons and bars and everything set up. Believe it or not, they actually kind of liked the Jaguars, some of them. When I got to talking to them, I told them I was just a Philly fan kind of for the weekend, that I was rooting for them, and that I like Jalen Hurts. Told them I'm a Jags fan. Usually we don't get a lot of static being a Jags fan, not a lot of enemies out there, but Doug Peterson, being that he used to coach the Eagles, got them the Super Bowl. They all said they root for the Jags. They pull for Dougie. They like him, so it was actually kind of nice.
Yeah, how can you not like a guy that brought you a Super Bowl championship? It's hard to look back on that regime or on his tenure there.
First Super Bowl championship too.
What's up?
Their first Super Bowl championship.
Yeah, exactly. First Super Bowl champion. I mean, that is something that fan base will always have to hold on to. The first Super Bowl. Obviously, the Jags still waiting to make it to their first one. Hopefully, trending in the right direction, and hopefully, their former coach will be able to do it for the Jaguars. But I like to hear that. I like to hear that the enthusiasm was there. We always hear these things about the Philly fans, but I'm glad everyone stayed safe for the most part and that you enjoyed your time up there. But to the game, 31-7, Eagles take it over the 49ers. Obviously, the game did not go according to plan if you were a Niners fan based on the injuries that we saw to the 49ers quarterbacks. Thoughts on that, Kyle, as far as how that just changed the outcome of the game and not even really posing a challenge or a threat to the Eagles in that one?
Tough season and tough end of the season for the 49ers. Obviously, Trey Lance is hurt. Jimmy G's hurt. Then Brock Purdy goes out first drive of the game, I think it was. It was very early in the game. I kind of made a
pass. Fourth play, I think it was.
Fourth play, okay. One of the I forget what quarterback was on the 49ers. There was like a backup that was inactive, and I jokingly said, like, oh, Like, he's unavailable. Like, what are you guys going to do? Like when they showed it on the screen, but turns out they probably could have used him.
Josh Johnson gets in the game for the 49ers. Didn't know he was still around. I think this is like his 13th or 14th team in the NFL, which is kind of impressive. That's up there with that's above Fitzpatrick type numbers, right?
Sounds like it, yeah.
Luke McCown, Ryan Fitzpatrick, all those guys have played on like 10, 15 teams. It feels like, 49ers didn't really stand a chance. Eagles opened up the scoring. Niners tied at 7-7, and from there on, the route was on. Eagles win that one 31-7 with 24 unanswered points. Not much to talk about there. I will say this. The one question I have, Kyle, any concern that the Eagles haven't really faced a challenge or a threat, not only necessarily during the season, but also now in the playoffs with kind of a walkover, a cakewalk game against the Giants. They beat them twice in the regular season, dominated them again in the playoffs. Now they had a quarterback-less 49ers in front of them. Is there any issue there, battle-tested problems?
I think it's a fair point to bring up. I don't necessarily see it as a huge issue. The Eagles have played well pretty much all season. They handled their business against the Giants. Of course, the 49ers, they were on the fortunate side of, their quarterbacks being injured and then not having a quarterback for part of the game. So I do think it's a fair point, but I think that they'll be ready. I think that they, still prepare and scheme the same. Obviously, you don't go into any of these games thinking it's going to be a walkover. You don't think that the quarterbacks are going to get hurt. So you prepare just the same. Like I said, maybe the Kansas City Chiefs have been a little more tested with the Bengals and the Jaguars. But with that said, I don't think it's going to cause a huge impact on the Eagles. And
at what point for a team do we just have to say, take away the whole they're not battle tested and just say they're really damn good? At a certain point, you can't just look at different blowouts and say, well, the team they were playing is bad. Maybe the Eagles are that good and dominate these teams that they go up against. So that very well could be the case. Let's get to the AFC Championship quickly before we look ahead to the Super Bowl. Bengals, Chiefs take that one 23-20, a dramatic ending. I know the NFL was happy about having at least one good game on Championship Sunday, Conference Championship Sunday, and they got a doozy with Joe Burrow going up and battling Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. Thoughts on that one?
Yeah, close game. Obviously, a lot of question marks towards the end there with some of the calls. Never like that to be the story. But again, I do think it's fair to point it out when there's discrepancies in officiating. I do think that it's something the NFL needs to take accountability on. These referees and officials are not full-time employees. They have other jobs sometimes outside of this. I think making them full-time employees and having year-round training, some public accountability, just like we see for the players and the coaches, I think would at least ease the mind of the viewing public and the teams when they see that, instead of getting a secretive letter that they get at the end of the week or whatever it is. So with that said, though, I picked the Chiefs. I thought the Chiefs would win. I am happy they won because I like Mahomes, but good game nonetheless. I would have been fine if Burrow won and the Bengals were in the Super Bowl too to try to win it. Losing it last year, that's always a good storyline. But happy to see Hurts versus Mahomes in this.
Yeah, both teams in that AFC Championship game felt worthy of the spot. Obviously, the Bengals making it there last year, coming up short to the Rams. The Chiefs have just been such a stronghold in the AFC. I think that was their 5th consecutive AFC Championship that they hosted, which I'm pretty sure surpassed Tom Brady and the Patriots, if I'm correct in that. 5 years in a row for the Chiefs. So Mahomes making it to another Super Bowl, no surprise there. It felt like after the first 2 seasons he was in the league, everyone kind of suspected this from him and this type of dominance from the Chiefs after the marriage with Andy Reid kind of took full the league by full steam. So it's no surprise there. It is unfortunate to talk about the refs after a 23-20 game because that is just such a great game. Obviously, I don't think anyone had any questions about the late hit that occurred out of bounds on Patrick Mahomes. I think that was a clean call. You hate to see that happen. Player has to be smarter. He's putting it out there for his team, and a young player makes a dumb play, boneheaded play, if you will, but he's playing to the whistle and just lost his equilibrium on the field. So unfortunate ending for the Bengals. Granted, no guarantees that if that didn't happen, that the Bengals would have won in overtime. Even if it got to that point, But nonetheless, to see the Bengals season end that way is painful. But a good game to watch. I think the Chiefs, I think that did allow them to get battle tested for this matchup, not only against the Jags and now the Bengals, but now here we are, Super Bowl 57 with the 2 number 1 seeds only playing 2 games before this. Do you have a problem with that, by the way? Do you I mean, one less game in football is so much more than maybe some other sports. Like 3 versus 2 games is a lot, especially for the best team. I guess they earned it, but you have an issue with that?
No, I mean, I think there used to be 2 buys, right? 2 teams used to have buys. Now it's just 1. I think that's fair. I think it also, we saw it a little bit in the NFC where the 1 seed was not locked up, or same with the AFC. I guess both were kind of like up for grabs till the end. Kind of allows the other teams to keep the pedal to the metal and try to fight for that spot. Also, I do think you should be rewarded for a good regular season.
I wouldn't be surprised, though, if the NFL says, you know what, let's get this thing to 16 teams in the next 5 years and 8 teams from each conference. That way it's just 8 games total between the 2 conferences wild card weekend. So I would not be surprised. It's a moneymaker, and that's what the bottom line is here. Unfortunate ending for the Bengals, but refs do need to be held accountable. I will echo that with you. I do think that they get too babied when it comes to the accountability aspect of their job, and anyone else in a job in a professional workplace would get critiqued not only by their managers or their coworkers if they did a poor job at what they're supposed to do and paid to do. But definitely echo that. So, Super Bowl 57. Now we got the Chiefs up against the Eagles. Last I checked, it was Eagles -1.5. Is that still where it stands?
I believe so, yeah.
Do you think that is at all due to the Patrick Mahomes injury? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. And Kelsey got a little dinged up. MVS is hurt or playing. Juju's hurt or playing. I know there was like a handful of injuries going on. So
they have like 4 receivers that are all game time decisions. I think MVS, Marquez, Valdez, Scantling is like a guarantee out, or maybe that was Juju, but Kadarius Toney's also injured. Mecole Hardman. I think
Hardman's out.
Yeah. Actually, now that I say his name. But yeah, they got issues. But honestly, as long as Mahomes and Kelsey are on the field, like that is one of the few things in the NFL world that is almost feels like a guarantee. Doesn't seem like anyone can stop the 2 of them. Kelsey, first touchdown score against the Bengals, cashed on that. Like that was easy money. And I should have hammered first touchdown score for the Chiefs. It was like at +220, and that was almost a shoo-in as well. Would have cashed on that. But I think at the end of the day, I think these teams are very closely matched up. I don't think one team necessarily beats another team in one aspect of the game. Do you see any discrepancies in the matchup as far as where one team could take advantage of another?
So both the defensive lines are pretty good. They're 1 and 2 in sacks, which I'm sure is a storyline they've been talking about a lot. I do think the Eagles' ability to run the ball, the offensive line being healthy, Lane Johnson being healthy, I think they just love pounding the ball, whether it's Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, Ken Gainwell, whatever it may be. Boston Scott has had a good postseason. So I think that is the biggest maybe kind of like discrepancy, if you will. Isaiah Pacheco, really strong running back. I like watching him run. Jerick McKinnon's been pretty good so far this year, especially with CEH being out. But, yeah, I think the Eagles' ability to move the ball, to get off the line, run downhill with it is going to play a huge factor. Also, the Eagles have a great secondary. Let's just call the defensive lines a wash, even though the Eagles' defense line is better. Let's just say it's a wash for all intents and purposes. The Eagles' run game and their secondary, I think, is going to be the huge difference. Quarterback, as far as the passing game is concerned, obviously you give it to Mahomes and his ability to make plays from a passing standpoint. But without all of his weapons healthy, that makes me question kind of how they're going to be able to run their normal offense that they like.
Yeah, I feel as though the storyline is obviously Mahomes versus Hurts and 2 of the league's marquee quarterbacks. It's obviously a big deal. Everyone's going to watch for it. But I have a sneaky suspicion that the game flow is going to be a lot more methodical than sporadic as far as extended drives, trying to milk the clock to keep the ball out of the other offense's hands, at least that's going to be the game plan going into it. Now, if that occurs, is left to be seen. But I think the smart way to approach this game, if you're either team, is to lean on the running game if you're able to, and then obviously have Mahomes check it off to Kelsey like they do on every 3rd and 5, that every team in the NFL knows is coming and just can't stop it. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see, under 10 possessions each for each team, just as far as the length of drives that we're going to get here. What I will say, speaking on the defensive line, you mentioned the Eagles and the Chiefs are 1 and 2 in the league in sacks, but that's not like 59 to 58. The Eagles have 70 sacks this year versus the Chiefs, who have 50 sacks.
That's crazy.
So, 55 sacks. So they're 15 ahead, right? So that's a huge discrepancy there. It's 1 and 2, but it's not particularly close. The problem is, on the offensive side of the ball, the Chiefs have only allowed 24 sacks, I want to say, on the year, and the Eagles have allowed 44 sacks on the year. Which in large part is due to Jalen Hurts kind of being a running quarterback. So he's going to hold the ball a little bit more. Patrick Mahomes, obviously more of a pass-first guy, gets the ball out quickly. I think 2.6 seconds on average from the snap to the throw. But at the end of the day, if that Chiefs defense with Chris Jones is feasting, that's going to change the game plan for Jalen Hurts in that offense. Any concerns from you if Jalen Hurts does have to get leaned on as far as throwing the ball and becoming like the marquee playmaker, taking control of this game?
Yeah, and, I don't think it's because he has to throw the ball and he's not a good passer. I just think that, him being in control of the game and his style of play is, a comfortability thing, right? Like, he knows he can throw it, but if he can't throw it, he can always run, and that's what he likes to do. So, yeah, I could see it if they're getting after him and stuffing him when he tries to run. I could see it potentially being a problem. Obviously, in the game against the 49ers, they didn't have to pass it very much, especially in the second half, because they were up big and could just they were having their way with the 49ers. So, yeah, we'll see in that regard if they are able to stop the run. But like I said, you got 4 players on the Eagles that can run the ball pretty well.
Yeah, indeed. And I think you can lean on them, and they're all very versatile and different types. I mean, it takes us back to, Darren Sproles and LaShawn McCoy in Philadelphia. They always seem to find these different, Brian Westbrook even, I guess, back in the day, but they find these different backs that they're able to kind of swap in and out and just kind of control the game from that standpoint. Quick stat for you, Kyle. How many sacks did the Eagles have in 2021 on the defensive side of the ball?
22.
They had 29.
Okay, I knew it was somewhere in there. I had saw something.
Okay, so 29 in 2021. They were 31st in the NFL. This year, 71st in the NFL. 41 sack margin between 2021 and 2022. Largest in NFL history. Largest turnaround. And they have 4 guys on the up front that have 10-plus sacks. Hassan Reddick with 16. Javon Hargrave with 11. Josh Sweat with 11. Brandon Graham with 11. And then even Fletcher Cox with 7. So, I mean, They got some dudes up there. So, it's going to definitely be a fun one to watch, though, see how these two teams play out. If the Patrick Mahomes injury, which was 3 weeks ago at this point, affects his ability to be mobile, if that's still a thing. But the Chiefs do look like a machine that is well-oiled no matter what injuries they happen to deal with. Where's your excitement level? Let's quick heat check on this game. Eagles versus Chiefs. I know back over the last decade, we've had, Manning versus Brady and Rodgers. Well, Rodgers was 2010. He's kind of irrelevant. But these different matchups between quarterbacks and teams, like, where is the intrigue level at with you? Or is this just another game between 2 really good teams?
I think it's a great game. I think it's 2 teams that have been featured a lot on primetime that people have been talking a lot about. It's 2 teams that I like to watch. As a Jags fan, you still have those other teams that you like to watch. Love Mahomes, love Kelsey. Like I've mentioned before, Isaiah Pacheco has just been an awesome player. I think he's really, really good. On the Eagles side, I mean, aside from having a future in on the Eagles to win the Super Bowl and kind of being an adjacent fan of them all year because of that, I've been a big Jalen Hurts believer. I know he didn't have a great year last year, but he has been fine-tuning some stuff. A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, awesome receiving duo. So, yeah, I think the hype is real. The hype should be there. This is an exciting game. It's probably one of the tightest spreads that they've had in the Super Bowl. I don't know the stats on it, but I don't know if there's ever been a pick'em in the Super Bowl, but this is as close as you can get to a pick'em just about. So, I think everybody should be excited and that it will be a good game.
Yeah, I'm excited, and it does not at all feel like David versus Goliath. Like, don't get it wrong. The Eagles were the best team in the league this year through the regular season. Obviously winning the NFC East and kind of working their way through that and now into the playoffs. There's no like chip on the shoulder feel to it. It just feels like two juggernauts in the league ready to battle in a big game. And I'm excited for it. Obviously the Eagles have been recently, the Chiefs have been recently, but it's going to be a fun one to watch. Obviously, Andy Reid going up against the Eagles, and a big storyline for a lot of his career before he won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs was he was always able to get to the NFC Championship with the Eagles. He was always, a few times get to the Super Bowl with the Eagles, but he was never able to win it with the Eagles. And now he's with the Chiefs, and now he's in a position to potentially hold the Chiefs back from winning another Super Bowl by now winning one. Hold the Eagles back from winning another Super Bowl by winning one with the Chiefs. So there is a chance for him to kind of reverse history there and maybe stick it to the Eagles a little bit more from his tenure there. I will say this, between the coaching, Kyle, what are your thoughts between Nick Sirianni, big game experience, Andy Reid, big game experience? Does that play a factor at all?
It definitely can. Nick Sirianni seems like he's a cool cat. It doesn't seem like he lets a lot of the outside noise get to him. He doesn't talk a lot. He doesn't make a lot of offhand comments or try to get in the mix. So I think he's just focused on the goal here. I think Andy Reid having the experience, though, of course, that never hurts. So.
Yeah, it'll come into play when he needs to settle the team down. And I mean, Nick Sirianni always seems calm, but then he has these moments of being like a hothead. But then you look at Andy Reid, and he always just seems like he's just calm and almost like bored on the sideline.
Yeah, docile.
Which, yeah, it's just funny. 23 years separate these two coaches. Last stat about them: 23 years separate them. Second largest gap between head coaches in the NFL, and I can't think of the first one. Let me see if it's here. No, it's not. Is it Tomlin? I can't see it. But
what do you mean, for Super Bowl or just the oldest and youngest coaches in the NFL?
Matchup in the Super Bowl. Oldest and youngest matchup in the Super Bowl. So 23 years it looks like. So pretty interesting stuff there. And this is the 11th time a head coach of one team is facing off against a former team in the Super Bowl. So if you're listening to this and you need some nuggets for the office to sound informed on a Friday or after the Super Bowl on next Monday, now you got some nuggets there. So, but Kyle, let's have some fun with this. Let's go through some player props, if you will. If you're interested in that, we'll do some over-unders on player props. We'll look at a few fun props as well. But wait, before we get to that, let's do our Super Bowl predictions for the Eagles versus Chiefs. Super Bowl 57, Kyle. Who are you liking in this one?
All right, so I think the pace of the game might start out a little hot, but I think it's going to be slow. I think there's going to be some sacks. I think there's going to be a lot of running on the Eagles side. I do think the Eagles end up winning, and I'm saying this goes under, and the Eagles cover, winning 27-21.
What is the over-under at right now?
It's at 51.
51, okay. For very similar reasons, I feel like the Chiefs are a little one-dimensional, and maybe 1.5 dimensional, if you will. Like they have a little bit of a passing game, they have a little bit of a running game. One of them seems to always click in a certain game, but the other one doesn't get started. I think to win a game like this, you need both run and pass to be clicking. I just don't think the Chiefs have enough playmakers outside of Mahomes and Kelsey to get the job done. The Eagles with two lockdown corners led by Darius Slay. The secondary is dominant there in Philadelphia. I think the Eagles are going to able to take a stranglehold on the game, maybe late first half, early second half, and just kind of grind it out. And I'm going to say they're going to win this one 24-20. 24-20. I don't see, with the way the Eagles have played over the last month and a half, 2 months, I don't see the Chiefs being able to just score more than 20 points when all they have to do is go through Travis Kelce, complemented by Isaiah Pacheco. At the same time, I think the Chiefs defense is good enough to kind of keep them in the game. So I guess I will say Eagles cover and the under hits as well there. But ready to do a few more props, Kyle?
Sure.
All right. Let's get this thing rolling. Have you you do like Super Bowl props, over unders and stuff like pretty frequently?
Yeah, I try. We have that betting, the Proppy Props group that we like to do. I was reading up on some, just reading about, it's kind of like the history of props. They were talking about how the Super Bowl were kind of getting lopsided at one point. So this, the book kind of released some props, and there was just a couple funny ones I was going to read off. One of them, or I guess one of them really, one of them was Cordell Stewart to have a rushing attempt, a passing attempt, and a reception in the game. So this was in Super Bowl 30, Steelers versus Cowboys. Cordell Stewart was a rookie. He was not the starting quarterback, but was kind of used all across the field. The line opened up that he would not have a passing attempt, rushing attempt, and a reception, which is probably fair. I wouldn't say that happens very often. Opened at negative 250 for a no, so you got to lay 250 to win 100. Probably should have been even steeper than that, but at the time that it closed at yes at negative 550, meaning you would have to lay 550 to win 100 for him to complete all three of those. So the article
let me get this right real quick. The original favorite was that he would not accomplish those three things.
Correct.
And it closed almost 700 points in the other direction.
Correct.
Man.
Where you have to lay 550 to win 100. So I guess the public was in on it. They liked kind of how they were using Cordell Stewart. They figured they're going to use him even more so in the big game. Well, anyways, the article goes on to say Stewart caught a pass very early in the game, and then about halfway through the game, he had a rushing attempt up the middle, and then he lined up. I'll read it word for word. He lined up to take a snap in the shotgun, and the entire sports book exploded in cheers. It felt like every single person in the room had the yes on the prop. Sure enough, he took the snap, rolled right, and everybody in the room was yelling, "Throw it, throw it." He cocked his arm, couldn't find anybody, tucked the ball into his chest and ran. Everybody groaned all at once, and he never had an opportunity to throw another pass in the game. So he lines up at shotgun, all these people in there waiting for him to get the third play of the trifecta for him to hit all three, and he tucks it and runs and doesn't get another attempt. So I thought that was pretty crazy, kind of a creative prop too. That was courtesy of Fox Sports. Sam, with a tough last name, is a sports betting analysis at Fox Sports there.
What's the last name?
Panayokovic.
Okay. So you gave the credit. You sourced them. That's all we need. That's absurd. I mean, that now we see all over the different books that are out there. They have these like props just like that are put together that are, will this guy do X, Y, Z? Might be three different facets of the game. Mm-hmm. That's why you think anyone that took the no originally at minus 220 went back to the well when it got to like plus 350 when like the swing happened?
I don't know. You would have thought it, but you also probably would have felt dumb. Like, what am I missing? I guess I'm just going to leave it alone. I don't know.
That's true. That is a massive swing. What are your favorite props to do as far as player props go, or like? Do you like the yardage? Do you like the catches, reception, rushing attempts?
I really like the QB rushing yards in the NFL, especially if it's not like Patrick Mahomes usually was like around 14 and a half, 15 and a half, something like that in the regular season, where if he gets two scrambles, he can go for 10 yards easy. Of course, you got to worry about the kneeling at the end and stuff, but I usually like the quarterback rushing yards. Maybe I'll get into some receptions, like for Travis Kelce. The over seems to be a good bet. I do like I think Kenneth Gainwell's rushing yards is 19 and a half. I like his over for that. He's had two good games in the postseason. Regular season, they haven't used him as much on the ground, but he's been hot. And I think if this game goes the way I think it will, where the Eagles run the ball a lot, I think they'll be rotating all three running backs in and out.
Yeah, no, I mean, you bring up a lot of good points there. As far as game flow goes, one that I'm looking at right now is Jalen Hurts over under 247.5 passing yards. And real quick, for those out there listening that might not know, a player prop is you're just simply betting on a player's performance and what they are going to do at a specific point in a specific statistical category, whether it's receptions, yardage, passing attempts, whatever. So just to put that out there. But right now, Jalen Hurts at 247.5 passing yards. I like the under in that one. I think that we talked about it just a little bit ago. The running game that the Eagles bring into this one, I think, is going to take over. And I don't necessarily think Jalen Hurts isn't going to hit that because he's a bad passer. I just think he's not going to hit it because there's just not going to be a reason to. I feel like they're going to have it clicking on the ground, and I feel like under 247.5 there is probably a pretty decent one that I like. But that being said, as far as him having under 247.5 passing yards, I do like A.J. Brown over 5.5 receptions. I think the Chiefs secondary has benefited this season from how aggressive the front 8 has been. And the secondary has looked good because of the sacks and the defensive line getting them behind the sticks. We saw the Jaguars were able to put up some yards and get a lot of receptions. I like A.J. Brown over 5.5 catches in this one. There was a stat I was going to read to you in this one, and this kind of ties more into his yardage, but he has 41.31% of the team's air yards this season.
Wow.
Which is that's a ton. That's air yards, obviously not total yards. But that just tells me that he's getting a lot of targets. He's getting a lot of looks, and I feel like the over 5.5 there is a pretty safe one.
Okay, nice. Yeah, and then the other one, I don't know if you have it pulled up, but Jerick McKinnon receiving yards.
Okay. Yeah, I do see that. 25?
Is it 25? Yeah, I think the over on that probably a good bet, just given the Kansas City Chiefs injuries. I feel like they will be dropping back and passing a lot. That's what Mahomes does best. So he's been good out of the backfield this year. He's had a lot of touchdowns down the stretch, so I think he'll get some love in the receiving game.
On receiving yards, transitioning to that's actually a good one because McKinnon's been kind of a staple for them out of the backfield. But Travis Kelce, you said you were going to take the over on the receptions, you think?
Maybe. I mean, it's something to look at. I feel like every game, it looks high. He's usually sitting at 6.5 or so, 7.5 even, and he hits it. I think for this, it's at 8 right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm gonna bet that or anything, but something to definitely look at. But I just think the way the Eagles are going to play defense is going to be very centric on Kelce.
Felt like Kelce had about 8 catches in the first drive against Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
Finished with like 14 catches in that game for 98 yards. But it definitely is just a monster. And a lot of people see him as this explosive tight end, which, don't get me wrong, I think he is. Maybe as far as the explosion comes after the catch with him. So he can catch a ball for 7 yards. But the thing that makes him so difficult to cover is the people that are covering him are always just slower than him. And he's able to make one move on a linebacker and get past him, and then he's one-on-one with a safety. I might look at yardage with him instead of receptions for this one. I'm assuming it's probably going to be somewhere around the 77 to 80 mark, maybe more than that. Any other props you're looking at, Kyle?
None for the player props. Do you have a list of the proppy props, the fun ones that we were going to do?
Yeah, let's go through that. I mean, that's just some of the player props there. I mean, there's so many. Patrick Mahomes over under 38.5 passing attempts.
Yeah.
Dallas Goedert over under 4.5 receptions. And honestly, watching the game without betting is fun. I would never tell someone, hey, just go bet on the game to bet on it.
That's what I was going to say. If you get too lost in the props, then you don't know what you're rooting for, and then something happens and you're rooting against it. So, maybe take a couple and then just enjoy the game.
Yeah, you might take an under Patrick Mahomes passing yards, but then an over Devonta Smith receiving yards, and then you're just kind of cannibalizing
for action, but then you're rooting for not a response. Yeah, it just becomes a whole kind of mental mind game you play with yourself.
Quick trivia before we get to the proppy props, Kyle. Devonta Smith has an opportunity to become, I believe, the 5th player in NFL history. What do you think I'm going to finish this with? He's like a second-year player.
I think you're going to say to win a national championship, a Heisman, and a Super Bowl.
That's exactly what I'm going to say. Could become the 5th player to win a national championship, Heisman, and Super Bowl. Do you know who the last player was to do that, Kyle?
I mean, I feel like that should be easy. Probably a running back from Alabama, but actually no, because the Super Bowl part's the tricky part. I don't know. I don't want to.
Mark Ingram did it, right? He won the Heisman and the championship, but he never won the Super Bowl with the Saints.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't want this to be a dry audio for the listener.
No, you're good. It is Reggie Bush.
Okay.
With a little bit of an asterisk there.
Wait, so he won a Super Bowl
with the Saints with Drew Brees.
Okay.
And he won the championship with USC under Pete Carroll, and then he obviously won the Heisman, which is still.
Yeah, he has the Heisman. He's a Heisman winner in everybody's eyes, so don't even worry about it.
Yeah. Funny enough, before that, the only other players to do it before Reggie Bush were Marcus Allen, Charles Woodson, and Tony Dorsett.
Okay. That's a good trivia question. That's tough.
Which is funny to me that not one quarterback has ever won the national championship, the Heisman, and the Super Bowl. That is absurd because especially in today's age where it feels like quarterbacks are winning the Heisman left and right, who knows? Maybe Trevor Lawrence will be the first quarterback to do that.
And Devonta Smith, I guess Charles Woodson was a wide receiver too, but Devonta Smith is a wide receiver, which I think he was only the second one to do it. I mean, Charles Woodson was a cornerback too, but didn't he play wide receiver? Or
yeah, he played both sides of the ball, but I think he made his money on the defensive side.
Yeah, of course, I know that, but I couldn't remember if there was another wide receiver that won the Heisman besides Devonta Smith.
Oh man, I knew this back when he actually won it, that there was another one, not Mike Williams from USC. Are you pulling it up now?
Desmond Howard.
Desmond Howard. He was a wide receiver that won it?
Yeah, that's maybe who I was thinking of. And Tim Brown. Tim Brown won it.
Okay, so only 3 wide receivers that won the Heisman. Interesting.
Yeah, Charles Woodson went to Michigan too. Maybe that's why I was thinking.
Yeah, I get those confused too, but I just remember it as Desmond Howard as the guy on College Game Day.
Mm-hmm.
He was the wide receiver that won it. So a little college football news nuggets there for you, Pooch Crew. Let's get into the props, some of the fun ones, Kyle. You big country guy? You big Chris Stapleton fan? How many songs can you name of Chris Stapleton?
I just know he's got Tennessee whiskey.
Yeah, he's got Tennessee whiskey, Parachute. Probably my favorite artist I've ever seen perform live down in Tortuga.
Nice.
I think back in 2016. Great artist, great live performer too. National anthem, so I'm going to be cranked up for that because I love me some Chris Stapleton. Hopefully he comes down in a parachute. Maybe. Real Chris Stapleton fans will know what I'm saying there. Over under 2 minutes and 1 second for the national anthem, Kyle.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's moved. Sometimes we get those props, they may be moved, but I'm going under. I saw a thing about it that people think he's going to go over because of how he sings Tennessee whiskey, like kind of slow. So I'm just going to go with that theory and say he's going under.
See, I'm going to go over. I don't know. He doesn't strike me as a guy that wants the spotlight. Yeah, he wants to be there, but
he wants to be respectful. He's a country singer, so
America.
Exactly. He's not going to make a whole production out of it.
Dragging it out. But we always get caught with like the end of the song when they drag out Brave.
That's true. When does the clock stop?
I think it stops when last syllable's finished. So if he says home of the brave.
It kind of goes.
Yeah. And it like goes away from it. So home of the brave. I'm going to listen to Chris Stapleton tonight and I'll do some analysis of his songs that match up well with the national anthem that might be a key to how he's going to sing. I also think that like anyone in his party or his group would know kind of watching him perform and practice. Maybe we get keyed up on that. Speaking of the national anthem, Kyle, cameras everywhere. We're going to see crowd shots. We're going to see cheerleader shots. We're going to see player shots, coaches shots, owner shots. Who's going to be shown first during the national anthem?
Andy Reid.
Think so?
Yep.
I think it's going to be Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be an Eagles player unless do they do like home team get shown first and then the away team?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I think it's going to be Patrick Mahomes. I think he's the face of the NFL.
Actually, flip me to Patrick Mahomes.
He's faced the NFL, and you think the first thing America wants to see to start the Super Bowl is Andy Reid?
I do. Legend.
He's a legend. I love it. Yeah, it's gonna be. I'll say Patrick Mahomes in that one, and Chiefs are wearing white, right? That got announced.
I think so. Yeah.
Chiefs white, and then I think the Eagles are wearing their Eagle green, whatever it is.
Maybe.
I did see, interesting enough, going back to the score prediction, I think Patrick Mahomes is 7-1-1 in games straight up when he is an underdog.
Crazy.
Doesn't happen a lot. That's only 9 times has he ever been an underdog. But he's 7-1-1 straight up. Kyle, heads or tails for the coin toss?
I mean, tails never fails.
I'm going to go heads on this one. I think the coin, the weight of the tails is going to be a little bit too much. Pull it to the ground, gravity. And who's going to get the ball first?
Hold on. So I got to figure out who the home team is. Who's the home team?
I think the Chiefs are because they're wearing white.
So
no, the Eagles are because they're wearing primary.
Well, the home team gets the pick, I think, but maybe not. Okay, so the Chiefs are calling it. So if they call tails,
no, I think the Eagles are calling it because they're wearing their primaries.
The home team gets to call the.
No, maybe the away team does. Chiefs. So you say the Chiefs are going to call it and get it correct as tails.
The Eagles are the home team, and who calls the coin toss?
All right. I'm just going to go out and say this. I think the Chiefs get the ball first, no matter what.
Oh, it's determined by rotation between conferences.
See, so the Pro Bowl does matter.
The NFC gets to call it in 2013. So I think the Eagles know tails never fails. So they're going to call tails, and they're going to win the toss, and then they're going to want to play defense first. So Chiefs get the ball first.
I agree with that. I think no matter what, I think the Chiefs get the ball first. If the Chiefs win the coin toss, then they're going to want to start with their momentum and their tempo. If the Eagles get it, I think they're going to want to set the tone of the game and try and stop.
Yeah, that's a fair thought process, yeah.
Stop the Chiefs on the first drive of the game, and who cares about the touchback? I mean, I think it'll be a touchback.
Yeah, we don't have to go through all of those.
No, you're good. Let's see what other ones we have.
Like 40 on there.
What's up?
There's like 40 on there.
40. That's putting it lightly. I will ask this one, Kyle. What will be the first score of the game?
Touchdown.
Touchdown. All right, and then first touchdown score in your opinion?
Jim, I don't know.
Because I think the Eagles score first, I think it's going to be a Miles Sanders first touchdown.
I was going to say Miles Sanders, but I'm going to go with my boy Kenneth Gainwell.
Ooh. I wonder what his odds are for first touchdown score.
Let's get weird with it.
Probably like plus 1,600.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Any other good ones? Team to call a first time out. This is absurd that we have these. Over under 1.5 combined interceptions in the game, Kyle.
Under.
You say the under?
Yep. I think Mahomes maybe throws one, but I don't think Hurts throws it enough to throw an interception.
I'm going to say under as well. I think Hurts throws one. I don't think Mahomes does. Yeah, I'll go the under there. And then, I mean, I think that over under 24.5 points in the first half, Kyle.
Under.
I'll go with the under there as well. I think the tempo of the game, maybe the game opens up in the second half, but I'm going to go the under. Hell, I took the under for the total. And will there be a missed field goal?
No.
No missed field goals?
No missed field goals.
The options are wide left, wide right, short, or no misses all game. So not only do you have to predict if
that's in the proppy props, right?
Yeah.
That gets a little custom.
I know, that's wild. And then the halftime show with Rihanna, Kyle, over under 8.5 songs.
Oh, I like that one. I'm going, because the songs, you could play it for 30 seconds and then cut into a new one. So, plus there might be some features because what if somebody else comes on? I think A$AP Rocky's going to show up. So, I'm going to say over.
Over 8.5 songs? Okay. And
if the NFL knows what's good for them, we need more Rihanna.
Bring her on.
Yeah.
Put her on the screen. They should extend the halftime, 45 minutes.
Easily, at least. Rihanna should get 4 quarters.
Just all four, and then they play the game at halftime.
Exactly.
Instead, the game is the halftime for the concert. I like that one, Kyle. Most receiving yards for the game: Kelsey, MVS, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith.
Kelsey.
You say Kelsey? I'm gonna go AJ Brown on that. I already took the over on his receptions. I think that's going to translate to some yards. I think the Chiefs secondary is easier to cut through. Mahomes or Hurts, Kyle, more passing yards in this one.
Mahomes.
Got to be Mahomes. And I think that's going to be it, Kyle. Oh, this is a fun one, actually. Which duo will combine for more total yards? Travis Kelce and Pacheco or A.J. Brown and Miles Sanders?
Kelce and Pacheco.
And you're saying 90% of that's going to be Kelce?
Yeah.
A lot of it. Well, all right. Well, we won't go anymore. There are a ton on here. Last one, actually. Let's do last two. Who will the Super Bowl MVP? Well, let's do that. Who will the Super Bowl MVP be, Kyle?
I could see it being a defensive person, honestly. If the Eagles really get after Mahomes, but I'm just gonna go with I'm gonna go with Miles Sanders.
Miles Sanders, MVP. Miles Sanders. Let's go, Movie Sanders. I'm just gonna take Jalen Hurts as the MVP. I mean, he can have a above average game and it's gonna stand out because it's the Super Bowl. You mentioned defensive MVPs in the Super Bowl, Kyle. There have been 3 defensive MVPs. Trivia for you: 3 defensive MVP players from the Super Bowl since the turn of the century. Can you name all 3 of them?
Von Miller.
You got the easy one.
Dexter Jackson.
Woo! Dexter Jackson with the Bucks.
So now it would be a question of if it's.
I'll give it to you. Do you have a guess?
Give me a hint.
Player that.
Is he still playing? Is he still playing?
He's not still playing, and it was like a flash in the pan guy. Okay, here's a good one. His teammates at his position group were very much more popular than he was.
Damn. Those are good hints. I don't know. Who is it?
It's Malcolm Brown from the Seahawks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He was on the field with KJ Wright and Bobby Wagner, but Malcolm Brown won the MVP that year. I think he had a pick 6. So who, in your opinion, will Miles Sanders thank first in his MVP speech?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Teammates, God, city, coaching staff, family, or nobody? Just like, I thank nobody. I did this myself.
Yeah, I think he'll thank his teammates.
Teammates, yeah, that sounds like a good one. I'm going to say the city, though, because he's been in Philadelphia for a good amount of time. If I'm Jalen Hurts, maybe I'll go coaching staff because of what Sirianni's done for him. But teammates is always a safe one. And then, Kyle, last one, color of Gatorade that's going to be shown.
Yellow
Gatorade. I'll go with blue Gatorade. Boom. So there it is, Kyle. Any more props from you that you want to dive into, or are you all set?
I'm all propped out.
Propped out. I'm pooped out. I'm propped out. Yeah, no, that's fun, though. So many things you can get into for the Super Bowl. Obviously, only a few short days away. Super Bowl 57 with the Chiefs and the Eagles. In this one, Kyle took the Eagles to win 27-21. I took the Eagles to win 24-20, both covering the spread, both unders there, and tons of props to be had as the NFL season comes to a close and we look ahead to the scouting combine, the NFL draft, free agency, and so much more ahead. But Kyle, I appreciate you being here. Last episode previewing anything for the NFL for quite some time.
Yeah. Well, we'll have the draft to talk about come April, and then, later in the summer, have some stuff with training camp and the roster and all that. So we won't be gone too long and as far as the NFL is concerned.
Love it. Love it. Well, fans out there, appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and like the video. Tell your friends and family about us. If you're a Jags fan or you're an NFL fan, go enjoy the rest of this week. Go enjoy Super Bowl 57, but most importantly, go make this world a better place and take care.
How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man?